I will always remember the ending of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Can I help you?
It's not just about Tarantino's signature brutality finally coming to life. The small but brilliant details and the darkly comedic writing.
You are real, right?
I'm as real as a donut, motherfucker.
There is something about it, something more, that makes it also satisfying. And that's why today I want to break down why these last 20 minutes of the movie stands out. Not just in Tarantino's filmography, but as a testament to how unique this ending truly is. But first, we need a little perspective, both historical and from Quentin's own point of view.
Sharon Tate had almost become a footnote in her own story. And so I started kind of exploring more the idea of who Sharon Tate was.
It's hard when you're bringing a real person to life, a person who had the storyline that Sharon Tate had.
It really seems like the world is a lesser place because she wasn't allowed to live her life. I think it's horrible that she's been defined by her murder.
As a result, Tarantino chose to tell this story from an unexpected sort of perspective, by never really addressing the main event head on until the very end of the film. But we will get to that.
Oh man.
Like with Sharon Tate, played by Margot Robbie, Tarantino wanted to do something never done before, something that would stand the test of time, and he described her role in the film like this. She is an angelic presence throughout the movie. She's an angelic ghost on Earth. To some degree, she's not in the movie. She's in our hearts.
She means something to you now, as opposed to just a statistic.
And the more time you watch the film, the more you understand what it means, and what the goal of this movie was. Ultimately, it did not portray her as a victim. It focused on being a love letter to who she was, what she stood for, and what Hollywood represented back then. A glimpse into the magic of those times, sprinkled with the presence of this loved figure, but mostly seen through the eyes of the two main characters. And this is where we get to the most important person of this video, and that phenomenal ending, Cliff Booth.
All right, what's the matter, partner?
Cliff is a character who really knows who he is. There's a confidence, there's sort of an assuredness, this I am who I am.
The genius of this character is that you don't really grasp how significant he is for the story until that door swings open. Throughout the film, Tarantino feeds us pieces of who Cliff is, his instincts, his morals, and what he is capable of. But it's all hidden in what feels like random flashbacks and quiet moments. Some are more obvious than others, like the acid cigarette.
Night to night? Why not?
Or him meeting the Manson family so that he would eventually recognize the hippies breaking into Rick Dalton's house.
I'm here to do the devil's business.
No, it's dumber than that. Something like Rex. Text.
Simultaneously, there is some more underlying themes that adds to the spectacle at the end, and Tarantino says it best himself.
I mean, the whole thing of their career is Rick is the one who pretends to be the badass cowboy, the guy who can do this and the guy who can do that, and Cliff is the guy.
By constantly placing Cliff in contrast to Rick, it makes the difference between them even more obvious. While his insecure alcoholic and ridiculous body acts out gunfights on camera,
I couldn't stop it for 3 or 4 hours.
Cliff is the one actually facing danger, fighting real people, and maybe even killing them.
Killed his wife and got away with it.
That guy? He's a man of danger. You know, he lived through World War II. He's killed people with his bare hands. And more than just his wife. All right,
And yet, Cliff stays in the background, always in Rick's shadow, on the job, but also because of the job.
That's your son?
No, that's my stunt double, Cliff Booth.
And that distinction is never clearer than in the final scene, when Rick at long last gets invited to his neighbor's home. That could lead to his big Hollywood breakthrough, while Cliff, the man who just saved his life and his wife's, is quietly disappearing in an ambulance.
Good friend, Cliff.
I tried.
I think that's partly why the fight at the end feels so satisfying. Cliff, the guy who's been loyal, calm, and in control the whole way through, finally has a moment where everything he's done actually matters. He steps up, saves the day, and for once gets to be the hero.
And the guy hippie said he was the devil.
But what really lands is Rick's reaction, because even though he's been self-absorbed and insecure throughout the film, it's always been clear that he does care about Cliff. Rick just has a lot going on internally that perhaps gets in the way of him saying that more often. And in this moment, when Cliff is being taken away, we get one of the few times Rick actually shows that appreciation. It's understated, but it feels real, like he's finally saying how much he actually means to him. And all of that emotional payoff is layered right on top of the film's big historical rewrite. And let's explore why that's so important. Like the title suggests, the film is a fairy tale, an alternative ending of a terrible, terrible event that haunted Hollywood and the world for many years, which makes it extremely difficult to pull off without stepping on someone's toes.
People still love Sharon, and I really wanted to be able to honor her memory with the best of myself. And I so appreciated Quentin's approach in portraying Sharon's life and watching her just live her life.
In the end, Tarantino chose to focus on a story filled with love that wasn't about Charles Manson, Sharon Tate, or the hippie movement. It was about Hollywood, film, actors, all that stuff he grew up with, told through Rick and Cliff.
Here I come. Oh, here I come. Oh.
Now, usually in Tarantino's films, the characters exist to serve the story, whereas in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, that narrative exists purely to better explore the characters. That's why the movie can feel like it's wandering, jumping between random scenes and flashbacks that don't seem to lead anywhere at first.
Now, I always want the scenes to work on a few different levels at the same time.
And these different levels of storytelling, from what I thought was an insignificant flamethrower to a can of dog food, suddenly it all clicks into its own place in that third act, and it changed the historical perspective from a nightmare to a sort of redemption dream. And while this film has the Tarantino violence that he always uses to convey his message, sometimes perhaps a bit too much, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood makes it feel more justified and almost grounded in realism, because it has less of the over-the-top brutality we expect from Tarantino. And that restraint is actually what makes the ending land so hard. It doesn't just shock you, it feels like justice, like the entire film and even history had been quietly leading us to the final act of payoff. What I mean is, I respect how Tarantino doesn't try to romanticize or even explain away the actions of the Manson family. He doesn't give them symbolic weight or the role of a villain. Instead, it strips them down to what they really are, just a bunch of crazy high, misled hippies. And when you combine that historical perspective with a stoned Brad Pitt and his dog casually delivering one iconic line after another, a crazy Italian wife, and Rick with his flamethrower, somehow it flips that serious tone on its head. Suddenly it's hilarious, and that's when Tarantino is at his absolute best.
It just happens. It just comes. I get the characters talking to each other.
River dare.
You're either in the zone or you're not in the zone.
Say what again? Say what again? I dare you. I double dare you. That's a bingo.
It's those scenes of pure tension and brilliant dialogue that sticks with you. But this time there is a difference. Here, Tarantino doesn't just deliver a clever line or a stylish twist. He takes this real historical tragedy and turns it into something deeply human and strangely hopeful. Sure, he's played with alternate history before, like in Inglourious Basterds. But this one felt different, more personal, more grounded. From a certain angle, it almost becomes a celebration of a friendship, the forgotten yet vital side of Hollywood, and second chances.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Oh, hooray! Great, I'll buzz you up.
So when that gate finally opens, it doesn't just mark the end of the story, it also feels like an optimistic triumph. A moment where Tarantino quietly asks the audience what if things had ended differently. And when we see the title of the film, that message lands with full force, and the beautiful fairy tale is complete. If you like my stuff, you can click on this video. Thank you for sticking until the end, and I wish you a great day.